Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This one is gonna get a bit spicy because I'm going through the top 10 most overrated albums that I think have ever been released in all of time. And the list here is interesting because I have a lot of artists that I actually really like on here. But I just think that some of the artists that are on the list, the album that they're sort of praised for quite a bit does not fully represent how good they are. And then, on the other hand, there are actually some artists here that I don't like at all. And I'll go through those. So let's start with number 10, singer, songwriter, actor as well, and that is Tom Waits and Rain Dogs. Now, Rain Dogs is an interesting album because it is the one that he brings out after Swordfish Trombones. Now, for many people talking about Tom Waits, they consider a period of divide which goes from pre-Swordfish Trombones to post-Swordfish Trombones. He was never the same after that album. And he started to go in a more experimental direction. And Rain Dogs is a good example of this. Now, why it needs to have nearly 20 tracks on it, I'm not too sure. But what we essentially have here is Tom Waits just going through the songs. He is smashing through songs at this stage of his career. He was writing a lot of material. Not all of it really should have been on an album, but you've got some really good songs on Rain Dogs. You've got Downtown Train, Singapore, Lay Down Your Hands. There's Jockey Full of Bourbon. There's some really, really good songs on here, but then there's just a lot of filler. It makes me wonder if he could have selected a tighter set of songs. For a better example of what Tom Waits was doing during this period, I would actually go and recommend Bone Machine, because I think that he's able to accomplish that sound on that album a lot better, and he'd also had a few more years, because that came out later, to sort of hone that kind of sound. That's what I would do. So Rain Dogs is number 10. Number 9, we have one that is a sacred cow amongst many critics and people on Rate Your Music and Album of the Year, Pitchfork, all these places. And a lot of fans really like it. But that is Joni Mitchell's Blue. Now, the reason this is on this list is because, as good as some of these tracks are, there's A Case of You, Carrie, The Last Time I Saw Richard, River. There's some of her best material on this album, but there's also some stuff on there that I don't sort of like that much, and it does tend to get a bit the album's called Blue, and it's quite a sort of miserable listen, but it's a miserable in the right way, I guess. A lot of people really connect with this record, but I think a better example of her artistry can be found on other albums, but particularly The Hissing of Summer Lawns, which I've talked about before on another video. I think that should be held up in higher regard than Blue, but that's just my opinion. Number 8. Now, number 8 is The Avalanches' Since I Left You, and this album was critically acclaimed pretty much by everyone when it came out, and like a lot of other people, I bought it when it came out. I quite liked Frontier Psychiatrist, the single off that album, and I did like the title track, which is also another single, Since I Left You. But what I found is, which happens in sampleology, if that's even a word, or turntablism, music which is primarily made out of samples can often feel a little bit soulless in a way. I had the same reservations a little bit about Paul's Boutique, but I think Paul's Boutique does that a lot better, and there's also obviously the Beastie Boys in there doing what they do to complement the production on Paul's Boutique. But with the Avalanches, their sole modus operandi is creating pieces of music out of pre-recorded, pre-existing recordings. And for that reason, a lot of people really like the Avalanches. I don't mind them, but I've never really understood the real hype that's coming from it. It's an okay listen, but I tended to get drawn out of it a little bit on some of the tracks because there was really good singles there. Number 7. Now, number 7, I have the CD here because I just want to have a look through. Okay, so that's Electric Ladyland. Okay, now why would I rag on Hendrix? I mean, I love Hendrix. I love the Jimi Hendrix Experience. I think they're a great band. But Electric Ladyland really gets a lot of critical praise for an album that has actually a lot of filler. I mean, Little Miss Strange is just throwaway, you know. Long Hot Summer Nights, the same thing. Rainy Day, Dream Away. 1983, A Mermaid I Should Turn to Be. The Moon, Turn the Tides, Weekly, Gently, blah. That title goes on forever. You know, it redeems itself towards the end, where we have House Burning Down, All Along the Watchtower, and then Voodoo Child, Slight Return. You know, I mean, it's great. It's a great way to finish the album. But it's just, you know, Cross Sound Traffic, Voodoo Child, and then All Along the Watchtower, Voodoo Child, Slight Return. But there's a whole lot in between that's just a bit mid, if I'm honest. A better example of Hendrix at his finest would be the other Experience albums, like Are You Experienced and Axis Bold as Love. His finest hour is actually his Band of Gypsies album, and I won't be persuaded otherwise on that one. So anyway, that's Hendrix. Number 6. Number 6 is another probably sacred cow here that I'm going to be criticising a little bit. But it is the Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here. Now, Wish You Were Here for me is a good example of how Pink Floyd do the long form compositions and don't quite pull it off. You have to remember that this album is made up of a centerpiece, which is Shine On You Crazy Diamonds, and it's the first track and the last track on this album. It takes up more than half of the album's runtime. And as iconic as the 4-note guitar motif that David Gilmour has, that, you know, and all that sort of stuff, and the lyrics are pretty good and all that, I just think that it could have been better condensed into a smaller piece, and then maybe added another song on, which was like a mid-duration song. Because really, I'll put that album on and it's fine, but the only point in which I'm most engaged in that album is in the middle of it, when you have Welcome to the Machine, which is one of probably the top 10 Pink Floyd songs, Wish You Were Here, which is iconic, and then the other track, Have a Cigar, where Roy Harper's doing the vocals on that. And that's the best part of the album. I can't stick Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It just really doesn't... Like, I'll put it on. If I want to put Wish You Were Here on, I put it on and I leave it. And it's fine. But I've never really got stuck into Shine On You Crazy Diamond part 1 to 5 and then 6 to 10 or whatever it is. A good example of them doing long-form content is Animals. They can do it. They've done it on the track Dogs. You can just go and listen to that if you want longer albums. If you want the longer tracks from Floyd, listen to Animals. Number 5. Number 5 is one of the greatest bands of the Manchester scene, and it's the Stone Roses, and it's the Stone Roses 1988 self-titled album called The Stone Roses. And I think for me, this band is iconic, and they occupy a place in British culture and British music, which gets looked upon so fondly for that time, and it's seen as the precursor to Britpop and very influential, Blur and Oasis and Suede and all those sort of bands were coming after, in the aftermath of them. And I think for me, it's just a little bit light. Because if we go through the track listing, what we have is perhaps the best first 3 tracks on any album, I think. Where you've got I Want to Be Adored, which has the slow fade in with the guitars coming in, and it's essentially a near 5-minute masterpiece. Then you've got She Bangs the Drums and Waterfall. And then it gets a bit curly. Well, actually, it gets quite curly after that, because you've got Don't Stop, which is pretty good. That's where they have the reverse technique on the tapes, and it sounds all wacky and that. And then there's a suite of songs that I don't care for. I don't like Bye Bye Bad Man. Elizabeth, My Dear is a little, 1 minute sort of ditty that could be found on a Beatles album sort of thing. Song for My Sugar Sponge Sister, I've never been keen on. But then when you get past that, you've obviously got Made of Stone, Shoot You Down, This Is the One, and then it finishes up with I Am the Resurrection. So it redeems itself, towards the end of the album. But this album is just, like, people go on about it like it's, end-to-end bangers, but it's not really. I've never gotten the hype for it. I've just never really understood it, if I'm quite honest. Great tracks on it, but I don't know. It's not wall-to-wall. It's not wall-to-wall good. There's sagging in the middle of the album that happens, and I don't know. I don't often put it on ever, really, Stone Roses album. And if I do, I listen to the first 3 tracks, and then I just kind of get taken out of it a little bit with whatever I'm doing, and maybe that's short-sighted of me, but the amount of times I've heard it, I felt the same each time, really. I go back to it quite often, but I never get really past track 4. Alright. So, that was number 5. Okay, here's the 4, I think, pretty quintessentially overrated albums that come up a lot on lists. And this is another band that I really like, but I think is a little overhyped. And that is Television Marquee Moon. Okay, Tom Verlaine and the gang put out this album. It's critically acclaimed. It's seen as a classic album. It's influenced No Wave, New Wave. You can see the sound of Sonic Youth's guitars on this album, coming through. That will come later. And The album is held up by 2 or 3 monumental tracks, and the rest is not that good. So it starts off with See No Evil, brilliant. Okay, Venus, all right, no, it's fine. Venus is okay. It's still got some good guitar lines. Friction, not too bad. It's a little on the longer side, but it's fine. And then the close off side one, you've got Marquee Moon, which is a masterpiece. That is a brilliant, brilliant song. Side 2 gets hairy because even though it starts off with one of their best songs, Elevation, it then goes a bit... it's... Guiding Light's by far the worst song on the album. And then you've got Prove It, and I've never really liked Prove It. And then you've got Torn Curtain, which pretty aptly titled in a certain sense. I am torn with this song because I think it's a good song. I don't think it's worth 7 minutes. But that's television. Sorry, television fans, that's gonna may hurt. And the rest of these are certainly gonna hurt because these ones are... a lot of people really like these last 3. So, number 3 is The Velvet Underground and Nico. Now, with The Velvet Underground, a legend was born with this album and everything that comes along with it. The backstory of they met Andy Warhol, and then he brought in Nico, and then it was this communal art space in New York where, they were making the album or recording the album. He was the manager, and, you got the banana on the cover and all this sort of stuff. And it is actually a very influential album, if not one of the most influential albums. Objectively, if I go through, similar to Marquee Moon, this album is held up by a few really, really monumental, influential tracks. Like, if we go through it, like, Sunday Morning, it starts off with Sunday Morning. Sunday Morning is fine. It's just not anything. It's not anything. It's really twee, and it's just whatever. I'm Waiting for the Man is a classic. It's a classic song. Femme Fatale is not that good. It's just a blasé pop, it's whatever. Venus and Furs, brilliant. Run, Run, Run is just an also ran, rock R&B song. All Tomorrow's Party is brilliant. Okay, that vamping piano line from John Cale, brilliant. Side 2, you've got Heroin, great song. There She Goes Again, filler. I'll Be Your Mirror. Nico sings this. It's better when Lou Reed sings it, actually, on other live appearances he's done. Nico doesn't do this song justice with her vocals. Black Angel's Death Song, they muck around a lot with that. And then European Sun, they fart about a bit. So, for me, it's just held up a little bit too high. I think the best example of the Velvet Underground is White Light, White Heat, and the self-titled album. I think that's their best work if you want to see what they're doing. Okay, number 2 has been named as Apple Music's greatest album of all time a few years ago when they did the top 100. I can't remember what year that was, but I was following that as they were rolling that out on a Apple Music's podcast. So they were doing, I think each day, or maybe each week, they would do 100 to 91, and then 91's and then they would just count down, and it all culminated in this being considered the best thing, and it is The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And the miseducation of Lauryn Hill for me, although a competent R&B album, I've never been able to understand why it's been held up in such high regard. I mean, it's got some good tracks on it, but this is I don't know if this is a victim of its own hype, and that the hype is just sustained over this 30-odd years of its existence. But I think the heavy lifting's done by the musicians on this album, and there's this great musicianship on this album. But in terms of the lyrics, and maybe I'm just not a Lauryn Hill person. I don't know. I mean, there's one album and there's an unplugged album, which is the unplugged album is just a whole video in itself, to be honest. But I've never understood it. I just no, it's got to be miseducated. Lauryn Hill, it's Ms. Lauryn Hill. It's all I've just never understood it. And I go back to it probably once a year, maybe twice a year, to see if my thoughts have changed on it, but I just don't get it. I've never been able to get it, and I don't have no malice towards it. I just no. So in 2004, 2005, I find myself as an edgelord teenager / early 20-something person going on to the 4chan 4chan sub Reddit, or not Reddit, but the 4chan thread of MU, which is their music thread. And something kept on happening, and I kept on seeing this image of this girl, and it's like, people keep on talking about the airplane over the sea and this band called Neutral Milk Hotel. And it wasn't until 3 or 4 years later I began working at a record store, and one of my colleagues was a huge fan of this band and this album, and said it was the best thing ever made, and showed me the album, and it was the same one that I kept seeing, airplane over the sea, And what could go wrong, really? I mean, that's the thing. Like, it should be right up my alley. It's like sort of indie-tronica. It's there's earnest lyrics. There's overdriven acoustic guitars. There's horns. There's it's an indie album. It's something that I should like. But the only problem is that it's one of the most pretentious things I've ever heard. And even me saying that is pretentious. Like, just so many people who put this up on a pedestal, and I've never understood. Like, it's just like you get in there, right? And the production, it's all this clipping. So there's so much, like, the mix is put up into the red. Like, his vocals are just clipping, and the acoustic guitar's overdriven, and it's just cutting through the speaker, and it's just harsh. And if that's the point, fine. If that's what he wants to do, I get it. But you get in there, and he's like, it's like, and she was sending in the Mars and the birthday, and she was in the airplane over the sea, and it's just his voice is just so irritating. Right, and every song's just the same 4 bloody chords. And he's just banging on about Anne Frank. He wants to go back in a time machine, and he feels bad because she was in the basement and she was living in the exile. And there's a 2-headed boy there, and then there's the King of Carrots. There's a song called The King of Carrots, and then there's this lyric where and people obsessed with the lore around this album. Like, there's all this mythology around it. The fact that he did this and then he didn't do any more music after that, and that's put this in this weird, it's like this legend. It's like in indie rock lore. And the guys are all recluse, and he's a genius, and he's all this, and his lyrics are amazing. They're profound, and that it's like, okay, right. This guy wrote a lyric that says "semen stains the mountaintops," and then he sings that 15 times, and it makes me wonder, like, what am I? What? I just can't stick it. I'm sorry. It's just the epitome of everything I hate in music. It has no humility. It has no humor. It has no life. It's cynical. It insists upon itself so much, and that, for me, is why The Aeroplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel is the most overrated album ever. It's just, let us know what you think, because by the time I finish this, it's like, yeah, just exhausted now. I don't know why it's so important and so acclaimed, and maybe it's either you get it or you don't sort of thing. Maybe it's that. I don't know. I'm not going to besmirch anyone for liking it. At the end of the day, you like what you like, and you will continue to listen to what you want to listen, and I guess that's the main thing. But these are the most overrated albums. What do you think about this? Put a comment in, and I will see you in the next video.